Welcome back to another episode of Infidelity Tales Lab. We're thankful for your continued viewership. Before we begin, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? We love knowing our global reach. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1, Strange Feelings. Rob Morrison adjusted the rearview mirror of his wife's silver Honda Civic as he pulled into the school pickup lane. The familiar weight of his tactical vest beneath his civilian clothes felt oddly comforting after another long day investigating insurance fraud cases for the city. 15 years as a Marine Corps investigator before transitioning to civilian work had taught him to notice details others missed, but today he was just a father picking up his daughter. Emma bounced into the passenger's seat, her backpack heavy with homework and her usual bright smile lighting up her 8-year-old face. "Hey, Dad, where's your truck?" "In the shop, sweetheart. Mom said I could use her car." Rob pulled away from the curb, glancing at his daughter, who had suddenly gone quiet. She was fidgeting with her seatbelt, looking around the interior with an expression he'd rarely seen on her face. "Dad," Emma whispered, leaning closer to him, "this car feels strange." Rob raised an eyebrow, keeping his voice light. "Strange how, kiddo?" Emma scrunched her nose, her small fingers tracing the edge of the seat. "It smells different. And the seat, it's not how Mom usually has it. And there's this." She held up a gas station receipt from the floor that wasn't from their usual station. "Mom never goes to Shell." Something cold settled in Rob's stomach. His investigative instincts kicked in automatically as he processed Emma's observations. The seat position was indeed different, pushed back further than Lisa's petite frame would require. The faint scent of masculine cologne lingered beneath the usual vanilla air freshener his wife preferred. "You know what, Em? Let's take a taxi home instead. I just remembered your mom might need her car later." Emma looked confused but nodded. Rob pulled into a nearby shopping center and called a cab, his mind racing through possibilities he didn't want to consider. As they waited, he casually walked around the Honda, noting the higher mileage than expected and a small scratch on the passenger door that hadn't been there last week. The taxi ride home was filled with Emma's chatter about her school day, but Rob's responses were automatic. 17 years of marriage to Lisa, and she'd never mentioned having car trouble or lending it to anyone. She worked from home as a freelance graphic designer and rarely drove anywhere except the grocery store and gym. When they pulled into their driveway, Rob paid the driver and walked to the front door with Emma skipping beside him. The house was quiet, too quiet. Lisa usually had music playing while she worked in her home office. "Mom, we're home," Emma called out, dropping her backpack by the door. Lisa appeared from the kitchen, and Rob immediately noticed something was off. Her hair was slightly messed despite being freshly showered, and she was wearing the blue dress she usually reserved for special occasions. When she saw them, her face went pale, her eyes widening as if she'd seen a ghost. "Rob? Emma? Why are you? I thought you were picking her up." Lisa's voice had a tremor that Rob had learned to recognize during his years of interrogating suspects. "I did. Used your car, like you suggested." Rob watched her carefully. "Everything okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." Lisa's hands trembled slightly as she smoothed her dress. "No, I'm fine. Just surprised to see you home so early." Her eyes darted toward the garage, then back to him. "Where's my car?" "Still at the school." Emma felt uncomfortable in it, so we took a taxi home. "Uncomfortable?" Lisa's voice pitched higher. "What do you mean, uncomfortable?" Before Rob could answer, Emma piped up innocently. "It smelled like boy cologne, and the seat was moved way back. Plus, Mom, you never go to Shell gas station." The color drained completely from Lisa's face. She stood frozen for a moment, then suddenly spun around and grabbed her phone from the kitchen counter. Rob watched in growing suspicion as she dialed 911. "911, what's your emergency?" "I need to report a stolen vehicle," Lisa said, her voice shaking. "My husband and daughter, they're not who they say they are." Rob stared at his wife in complete shock as she gave the dispatcher their address. Emma looked between her parents, confusion and fear creeping into her young face. "Lisa, what the hell are you doing?" Rob's voice was dangerously quiet. She wouldn't meet his eyes, clutching the phone like a lifeline. I don't know you. This isn't. You're not supposed to be here." The sound of approaching sirens filled the air, and Rob's mind began working with a cold precision that had made him one of the best investigators in the Marines. His wife had just called the police on him and their daughter, claiming they weren't who they said they were. There was only one reason someone would panic enough to make such a desperate, illogical call. She was hiding something big enough to make her risk everything to cover it up. Chapter 2. The investigation begins. 2 patrol officers arrived within minutes, their hands resting casually on their weapons as they approached the front door. Rob recognized the lead officer, Detective Mike Torres, from his insurance investigation days, and felt a small measure of relief. Rob Morrison? What's going on here? Torres looked genuinely confused as he glanced between Rob and the trembling Lisa. I wish I knew, Mike. My wife called you on us. Rob's voice was steady, controlled. Said we weren't who we claimed to be. Torres turned to Lisa, his expression patient but professional. Ma'am, can you explain the situation? Lisa's story fell apart within minutes. She couldn't explain why she thought her husband and daughter were imposters, couldn't provide any evidence of identity theft or home invasion. Her hands shook as she tried to answer basic questions about when she'd last seen her real family. Mrs. Morrison, Torres said gently, I've known your husband for 3 years. This is definitely Rob Morrison, and that's your daughter Emma. Are you feeling all right? Have you taken any medication today? Rob watched his wife realize her mistake, saw the moment panic turn to humiliation and then to something that looked almost like regret. She canceled the report, claiming stress from work deadlines had made her confused and paranoid. After the officers left, Lisa immediately retreated to their bedroom, claiming a headache. Emma, still confused and frightened by the whole incident, curled up next to Rob on the couch. Daddy, why did Mom call the police on us? Rob smoothed his daughter's hair, his mind cataloging every detail from the afternoon. Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes when they're scared or confused, sweetheart. Mom's just having a tough day. But Rob knew it wasn't confusion. In 17 years of marriage, through military deployments, job changes, and family stress, Lisa had never once acted irrationally. She was hiding something, and her panic response told him it was significant. That night, after Emma was asleep, Rob began what he did best, investigating. He started with the Honda, using a flashlight to examine every inch of the interior. The masculine cologne scent was stronger near the driver's seat. He found a single dark hair on the headrest that was definitely not his or Lisa's. In the glove compartment, beneath the registration, was a napkin from Rosario's Italian restaurant, a place Lisa claimed to have never visited. Rob photographed everything with the methodical precision of his military training. The gas station receipt Emma had found was dated 3 days ago at 2:47 p.m., a time when Lisa claimed to be in back-to-back video conferences. He checked her computer's browser history and found the gaps where sessions had been deleted. His phone buzzed with a text from his old Marine buddy, Danny Walsh, who now ran a private security firm. Beer tomorrow? Haven't heard from you in weeks. Rob stared at the message, remembering something Lisa had mentioned about Danny calling the house recently. She'd said he was just checking in, but now Rob wondered if there was more to it. The next morning, Lisa acted as if nothing had happened. She made Emma's lunch with unusual attentiveness, kissed Rob goodbye with forced normalcy, and settled in her home office as if yesterday's breakdown was just a bad dream. Rob drove Emma to school in his repaired truck, then made a detour to Rosario's Italian restaurant. The lunch crowd hadn't arrived yet, and the manager, a middle-aged Italian woman named Maria, was happy to chat. Sure, I remember her, Maria said, looking at Lisa's photo on Rob's phone. She's been coming in regularly for about 2 months. Always with the same guy, tall, dark hair, very handsome. They usually sit in the corner booth, very cozy if you know what I mean. Rob's blood went cold. Can you describe the man? Italian-looking, maybe late 30s. Always wore expensive suits. Tipped well. They seemed very intimate. Rob thanked Maria and sat in his truck outside the restaurant, pieces falling into place. Lisa's new workout schedule, her sudden interest in expensive clothes, the way she'd started taking phone calls in private. He'd attributed it to midlife restlessness, but now he saw it for what it was. His phone rang. Danny Walsh. Rob, we need to talk. It's about Lisa. What about her? Danny's voice was heavy with reluctance. Meet me at Murphy's bar in an hour. There's something you need to know. An hour later, Rob sat across from his oldest friend in a dimly lit corner booth, nursing a beer he didn't want. Danny looked uncomfortable, guilt written across his weathered face. I should have told you sooner, Danny began. But I hoped it would burn out on its own. Just say it. Lisa's been having an affair. For about 3 months now. The guy's name is Vincent Romano. He's not good news, Rob. Rob's expression didn't change, but Danny had known him long enough to see the dangerous stillness that meant his friend was calculating. What kind of not good news? He runs a high-end auto detailing business, but that's not his real income. Romano's connected to some bad people. Money laundering, probably. The kind of guy who thinks he's untouchable because he's got protection. How do you know all this? Danny shifted uncomfortably. Lisa hired me to do a background check on him. She said she'd met him at the gym and was thinking about investing in his business. She made me promise not to tell you because she wanted it to be a surprise. Rob almost laughed at the cruel irony. His wife had unknowingly handed him everything he needed to know about her lover. What else did you find? Romano's got a reputation for being possessive, aggressive. His last girlfriend filed a restraining order that mysteriously got dropped. Rob, I think Lisa's in over her head with this guy. Rob finished his beer in one long swallow. Danny, I need you to keep monitoring Romano. Everything. Where he goes, who he sees, what he does. Can you do that without asking questions? Danny nodded slowly. Rob, what are you planning? Rob stood up, his face as cold and impassive as it had been during the worst moments of his military service. I'm going to remind some people that there are consequences for betraying the wrong man. As he walked out of the bar, Rob's mind was already working through possibilities. Vincent Romano had made the mistake of thinking Rob Morrison was just another cuckolded husband. Lisa had made the mistake of thinking her betrayal would go unnoticed. They were both about to learn that some men don't forgive. They destroy. Chapter 3. The Ruthless Truth. Rob spent the next week playing the role of oblivious husband while gathering intelligence with military precision. He installed hidden cameras in their home, placed a GPS tracker on Lisa's car, and used his law enforcement contacts to build a comprehensive profile on Vincent Romano. What he discovered made his blood run cold for reasons beyond simple adultery. Romano wasn't just a criminal. He was a predator who specialized in seducing married women, gaining their trust, then systematically destroying their lives for profit. He had a pattern: affair, emotional manipulation, access to family finances, then blackmail. 3 previous victims had lost their homes, their marriages, and their children to Romano's schemes. But what made Rob's vision go red with rage was the discovery that Romano had been asking Lisa detailed questions about Emma's schedule, her school, her activities. Phone recordings captured him suggesting Lisa bring Emma around sometime, claiming he was good with kids. Rob sat in his truck outside Emma's school, hands clenched on the steering wheel as he listened to the recorded conversation through earbuds. Lisa's laughing response that Emma would love you made him see spots of black fury. His phone buzzed with a text from Lisa, working late tonight. Client dinner. Don't wait up. Rob checked the GPS. She was at Romano's apartment. That evening, after putting Emma to bed with extra attention and love, Rob drove to Romano's building. It was an upscale complex with poor security, typical of men who felt untouchable. Rob's military training made bypassing the locked child's play. Romano's apartment was exactly what Rob expected: expensive furniture, tacky art, and photos of himself with various women. Rob planted listening devices, copied the contents of Romano's computer, and photographed documents that confirmed his worst suspicions. Romano had detailed files on all his targets, including Lisa. But Lisa's file contained something the others didn't: photos of Emma taken from a distance, her school schedule, and notes about her favorite places. The bastard was planning something that went far beyond financial manipulation. Rob was still photographing evidence when he heard voices in the hallway. He moved to the window, prepared to escape via the fire escape, but froze when he heard Lisa's distinctive laugh. They entered the apartment in a tangle of hands and mouths. Lisa pressed against the door, as Romano kissed her neck. Rob watched from the shadows, his trained mind recording every detail while his heart turned to ice. "God, I missed you," Lisa breathed, her hands working at Romano's shirt buttons. "Did you miss me enough to finally leave him?" Romano's voice carried an edge that Rob recognized as manipulation. Lisa hesitated. "Vince, we talked about this. It's complicated with Emma." "It's not complicated. You file for divorce, claim he's abusive, get custody and child support. I know lawyers who can make it happen fast." Rob's jaw clenched as he realized Romano had coached Lisa on how to destroy him. "But Rob's never been abusive," Lisa protested weakly. Romano's laugh was ugly. "Baby, by the time my lawyer's done, Rob Morrison will look like a monster. Military guys are easy targets. Everyone believes they're unstable. We'll say he threatened you, maybe roughed up the kid. Social services will eat it up. I don't want to hurt Emma. Emma will be fine. Better off, actually. Rob's too strict anyway. All that military bullshit. Kid needs a real father figure." Rob had heard enough. He slipped out through the fire escape while they were distracted, his mind already formulating a plan that would make both of them pay for threatening his daughter. The next morning, Rob made a series of phone calls to old military contacts. By afternoon, he had meetings scheduled with people who owed him favors, the kind of people who could make problems disappear permanently. But first, he needed to secure Emma's safety and his legal position. Rob picked Emma up from school early, taking her for ice cream at their favorite spot. As she chattered happily about her day, he studied her innocent face and made his final decision about how far he was willing to go. "Em, how would you feel about visiting Grandma Morrison for a while?" Emma's face lit up. Rob's mother lived on a ranch in Montana, far from the coming storm. "Really? For how long?" "Maybe a few weeks. There's some grown-up stuff Daddy needs to handle." That evening, as Lisa prepared for another client dinner, Rob confronted her in their bedroom. He placed printed copies of Romano's photos of Emma on the dresser and watched her face go white. "Explain this." Lisa's hands shook as she picked up the photos. "Rob, I can. He's been watching our daughter, planning something, and you've been feeding him information." "No, I would never." "The GPS tracker in your car says otherwise. The recordings of your conversations say otherwise." Rob's voice was deadly calm. "You've been planning to destroy me and take Emma. Claim I'm abusive." Lisa sank onto the bed, tears streaming down her face. "It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did go this far. You chose a criminal over your family. You put our daughter at risk for a man who collects wives like trophies." "Rob, please, we can work this out." Rob looked at the woman he'd loved for 17 years and felt nothing but cold disgust. "No, Lisa, we can't, because I don't forgive betrayal. I don't forgive threats to my daughter. And I sure as hell don't forgive women who sell out their families for a few months of excitement." He moved toward the door, then turned back. "You have 48 hours to decide if you want to cooperate with my divorce terms, or if you want me to let Vincent Romano's other victims know where to find him. Some of them have brothers and fathers who are even less forgiving than I am." Lisa looked up with desperate hope. You're gonna let me go? Just like that?" Rob's smile was arctic. "Lisa, I said I don't forgive. I never said I was going to make it quick." As he walked out of their bedroom for the last time, Rob Morrison began implementing a plan that would teach everyone involved that some men don't just seek justice. They create it, one carefully calculated move at a time. The war was about to begin. Chapter 4. The Art of War. Rob spent the weekend executing the first phase of his plan with methodical precision. Emma was safely on a plane to Montana, convinced she was getting an early summer vacation with Grandma Morrison. Lisa believed she had 48 hours to choose between cooperation and exposure, unaware that Rob had already made the choice for her. Monday morning, Rob walked into the offices of Hartwell and Associates, the most aggressive family law firm in the city. Margaret Hartwell was a former prosecutor known for destroying cheating spouses in divorce court. "Mr. Morrison," Margaret studied the evidence Rob had compiled. "This is remarkably thorough. Your wife won't know what hit her. I don't want her to know what hit her until it's too late to recover." Rob's voice was ice. "Can you freeze the accounts?" "Already filed the emergency motions. By noon today, she won't be able to access anything except the household checking account. Your pension investments, the house, all protected. Rob nodded. What about custody? Margaret smiled grimly. With Romano's criminal background and the evidence of him stalking Emma, any judge will see your wife as an unfit mother. Full custody won't be a problem. But Rob wasn't finished. I want to add a clause to the custody arrangement. If Lisa ever introduces Emma to any romantic partner without court approval, custody automatically reverts to me permanently. That's unusually harsh. Lisa threatened my daughter's safety. There are no limits to how far I'll go to protect Emma. While Margaret filed the paperwork, Rob drove to his insurance company office where his supervisor, Captain Pete Rodriguez, was waiting with several federal agents. Rob, these gentlemen are very interested in what you've discovered about Vincent Romano's operation. Agent Sarah Mitchell laid out surveillance photos on the conference table. Romano's been on our radar for money laundering, but we haven't been able to get close enough to his operation. Your evidence changes everything. Rob studied the photos. What do you need from me? We need him to incriminate himself. Make him think he's won. Get him comfortable enough to talk about his other operations. How long do you need? 2 weeks, maybe 3. Can you maintain your cover that long? Rob thought about Lisa's panicked phone call to the police, her pathetic attempts to manipulate him, Romano's plans for Emma. Agent Mitchell, I'll give you a month if you guarantee me he'll go down hard. Prison time, I want him destroyed. Financially, socially, criminally. I want him to lose everything. Agent Mitchell exchanged glances with her partner. Mr. Morrison, we appreciate your cooperation, but you need to let us handle. No. Rob's voice cut through her objection like a blade. You handle the federal case. I'll handle the personal justice. That afternoon, Rob returned home to find Lisa pacing the kitchen, cell phone clutched in her hand. She looked up when he entered, her face a mixture of desperation and anger. Rob, we need to talk. I'm listening. I've been thinking about what you said. About the 48 hours. Lisa sat down at the kitchen table, trying to appear calm. I'm willing to cooperate with reasonable divorce terms. Rob poured himself a coffee, noting how her hands trembled. Define reasonable. 50-50 split of assets, joint custody of Emma, no alimony. No. Lisa's facade cracked. What do you mean, no? I mean, I've already filed for divorce. You get nothing except what the court decides you deserve, which won't be much. Emma stays with me. You can't just. I can and I did. As of this morning, you can't access our bank accounts, you can't sell the house, and you can't make any major decisions regarding Emma without my consent. Lisa shot to her feet. This is insane. You can't destroy our marriage over one mistake. Rob set down his coffee cup with deliberate care. One mistake? Lisa, you've been planning to frame me as an abusive husband. Your boyfriend has been stalking our daughter. That's not a mistake. That's a conspiracy. Vince would never hurt Emma. Vincent Romano has a restraining order history. He's under federal investigation for money laundering. And he has photos of Emma that he took without our permission. Rob watched Lisa's face go pale. Did you know about the photos, Lisa? No, of course not. But you knew about the plan to claim I was abusive. Lisa's silence was answer enough. Rob stood up, his movements controlled but predatory. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to continue your relationship with Romano exactly as you have been. You're going to act like nothing has changed between us. And you're going to wear a wire. What? The FBI wants Romano for money laundering. I want him for threatening my daughter. You're going to help us get him. Lisa backed against the kitchen counter. I won't do it. Yes, you will. Because if you don't, I'll make sure every one of Romano's previous victims knows where to find both of you. Some of them have teenage sons who blame him for destroying their families. The color drained from Lisa's face. You're threatening me. I'm offering you a choice. Help us destroy Romano, and maybe you'll get supervised visitation with Emma. Refuse, and you'll lose everything, including your safety. Rob moved closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. Lisa, 17 years ago, you married a Marine who's been in situations where hesitation means death. You've forgotten who I am, but I haven't. I protect what's mine, and I destroy what threatens it. Romano threatened Emma. You enabled him. Now you both pay the price. Lisa's phone buzzed with a text. She glanced at it, then at Rob. He wants to see me tonight. Perfect. Agent Mitchell will brief you on the wire equipment tomorrow. Tonight, you act normal. Rob headed toward the door, then turned back. Oh, and Lisa, if you warn him about any of this, I'll make sure he finds out about your cooperation anyway. The difference is, if you warn him, you'll both be marked as federal informants with no protection. As Rob left the house, he felt the familiar calm that came with having a clear mission. The enemy was identified, the objectives were set, and the tactics were in motion. Vincent Romano had made the mistake of thinking Rob Morrison was just another mark. Lisa had made the mistake of thinking their marriage meant Rob would tolerate betrayal. They were both about to learn that some men don't just fight back, they wage total war. Chapter 5. The Trap Titans. The wire equipment was smaller than Lisa had expected, just a tiny transmitter taped under her bra and a micro-recorder disguised as a smartphone case. Agent Mitchell had spent 2 hours coaching her on how to guide conversations toward Romano's criminal activities without seeming obvious. Remember, Mitchell emphasized, we need him to talk about money sources, other women he's targeted, and any plans involving your daughter. Can you handle this? Lisa nodded, though her hands were shaking. 3 days ago, she'd been planning a future with Vincent. Now she was helping destroy him to save herself from Rob's calculated vengeance. Rob watched the briefing from an adjacent room through one-way glass, his expression unreadable. When the agents finished, he joined Lisa in the hallway. Scared? He asked. Terrified, Lisa admitted. Rob, what if he finds out? Then you'd better be very convincing. Rob's voice held no sympathy. Remember, you chose this path. Now you walk it. That evening, Lisa met Romano at his apartment, the wire recording every word. He greeted her with wine and pasta, completely unaware that federal agents were listening from a van parked outside. You seem tense, baby, Romano said, massaging Lisa's shoulders. Everything okay at home? Lisa forced herself to relax into his touch. Rob's been acting strange. Suspicious. I think he might know something. Romano's hand stilled. What kind of strange? He asked me about my schedule, wanted to know where I've been going. And yesterday, he went through my purse. Lisa delivered the lies smoothly, following the script Agent Mitchell had provided. Vince, maybe we should cool things down for a while. No. Romano's voice hardened. We're too close to getting what we want. Your husband's a problem that needs solving. Lisa's blood chilled. What do you mean? I mean, men like Rob Morrison think they can control everything. They need to learn different. Romano moved to his desk, pulling out a thick folder. See, I've been doing research on your husband. Military background makes him dangerous, but it also makes him predictable. Lisa watched him spread out documents, Rob's service record, their financial information, even photos of their house. Where did you get all this? I have sources. The question is, how far are you willing to go to be free of him? What are you talking about? Romano sat beside her, his voice dropping to a whisper that the wire barely caught. What if Rob had an accident? Military guys are unstable. Everyone knows that. PTSD, drinking problems, domestic violence. If something happened to him, who would question it? Lisa's stomach lurched. Vince, you're scaring me. I'm offering you a solution. Rob dies. You get life insurance money plus his military benefits. Emma gets a new father who can provide for her properly. Everyone wins. Except Rob. Romano laughed coldly. Rob stopped matching the day. He decided to be an obstacle. Lisa, I've done this before. Husbands who don't cooperate tend to have unfortunate accidents. Lisa forced herself to ask the question Agent Mitchell had coached her on. What kind of accidents? Car crashes are popular. Hunting accidents work if the husband's into that. Sometimes it's just a home invasion gone wrong. Romano's voice was casual, discussing murder like a dinner menu. The key is making it look random while ensuring you have a perfect alibi. The recording device captured every word as Romano detailed how he'd arranged the accidents of 3 previous husbands who'd gotten too close to discovering his schemes. Lisa fought to keep her expression neutral while horror crawled up her spine. But what about Emma? She managed to ask. Romano's smile was predatory. Emma's a beautiful little girl. Once Rob's gone and you're grieving, it'll be natural for her to need a strong male figure. I'll be very patient with her, very understanding. Kids adapt faster than you'd think. Lisa excused herself to the bathroom and vomited as quietly as possible, the full horror of what she'd gotten involved with finally hitting her. This wasn't just about an affair anymore. Romano was a killer who'd been planning to murder Rob and manipulate Emma from the beginning. When she returned, Romano was on the phone, speaking in rapid Italian. He hung up when he saw her. "Who was that?" Lisa asked. "Business associates. They're going to help us with the Rob problem." Romano pulled her close. "Don't worry, baby. In 2 weeks, you'll be free, rich, and we'll be a family." Lisa left Romano's apartment an hour later, her skin crawling from his touches and her mind reeling from what she'd learned. The federal agents were waiting in the surveillance van, their expressions grim as they reviewed the recordings. "We got him," Agent Mitchell said. "Conspiracy to commit murder, solicitation of murder, and enough detail about the previous killings to reopen those cases." Rob was standing beside the van, his face carved from granite. "When do you arrest him?" "We need more evidence about his associates, the ones he called. Give us 48 hours to build a complete case." "Fine. But after that, Romano disappears into federal custody and Lisa testifies to everything she's heard." Agent Mitchell looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Morrison, about your wife? She's been extremely cooperative. The prosecution might be willing to offer immunity in exchange for her testimony." Rob's laugh was arctic. "Agent Mitchell, your case is my gift to the federal government. What happens to Lisa is my business." Lisa stepped out of the van, her face pale and drawn. "Rob, I need to tell you something. Vincent, he wasn't just planning to steal from you. He was going to kill you. And Emma, he had plans for Emma that would have." "I know." Rob's voice was flat. "I've known since I found the photos in his apartment." "You've been in his apartment?" "Lisa, I've been 3 steps ahead of both of you since this started. Did you really think I let a criminal threaten my daughter without taking precautions?" Lisa stared at him with dawning horror. "How long have you known?" "About everything. Long enough to record Vincent's phone calls, photograph his files, and document every crime he's committed in the past 5 years." Rob stepped closer, his voice dropping to a whisper. "Long enough to make sure that when this is over, there won't be enough left of Vincent Romano to bury." As the agents drove away with their evidence, Lisa realized that Rob's war wasn't just about punishment. It was about total annihilation. And she was beginning to understand that her cooperation might not save her after all. Chapter 6: The Hammer Falls. The federal raid on Romano's apartment happened at dawn, with enough evidence to charge him with 3 counts of murder, conspiracy, money laundering, and a dozen other federal crimes. Rob watched from across the street as agents carried out boxes of evidence, Romano's face a mask of rage and disbelief as they led him away in handcuffs. But Rob wasn't finished. While the FBI handled Romano's criminal prosecution, Rob had his own justice to dispense. Within hours of Romano's arrest, Rob's contacts in the financial industry had frozen all of Romano's assets as part of a civil forfeiture action. His luxury apartment lease was terminated for criminal activity. His auto detailing business was shuttered pending investigation. Every credit card, bank account, and investment Romano owned was locked down. Danny Walsh called Rob that afternoon with an update. Romano's lawyer is screaming about constitutional violations, but the evidence is rock solid. His bail hearing is set for tomorrow. What's the bail going to be? With 3 murder charges? If he gets bail at all, it'll be millions. He won't get bail, Rob said with certainty. How can you be sure? Because his lawyer is about to have some ethical problems. Rob had discovered that Romano's attorney, Marcus Webb, had been helping launder money through his law firm's trust accounts. An anonymous tip to the State Bar Association, backed by financial records Rob had photographed during his reconnaissance, was about to end Webb's career and land him in federal custody alongside his client. The next morning, Romano appeared in court with a public defender who'd had 30 minutes to review a case file containing thousands of pages of evidence. Bail was denied, but Rob's most brutal stroke was yet to come. That afternoon, he made a series of phone calls to the families of Romano's previous victims, the wives he'd seduced, the husbands he'd murdered, the children he'd left fatherless. Rob provided each family with Romano's arrest details, his location in federal custody, and most importantly, the identities of his accomplices who were still free. Within 24 hours, wrongful death lawsuits worth millions were filed against Romano's estate. The media picked up the story of the serial killer who'd masqueraded as a businessman, destroying families for profit. Romano's photo was on every news channel, his crimes detailed in horrifying specificity. But Rob saved his darkest move for Lisa. She was waiting in their kitchen when he returned home Wednesday evening. Divorce papers spread across the table. Her signature was required on dozens of documents that would essentially leave her with nothing except the clothes on her back. "I can't sign these," Lisa said, her voice hollow. "Rob, I have nowhere to go. No money, no job prospects. You're taking everything. You should have thought about that before you conspired to murder me. I never agreed to that. I was horrified when Vincent suggested it." Rob sat across from her, his expression emotionless. "But you didn't leave him. You didn't warn me. You continued the relationship even after you knew he was a killer. I was scared. You were complicit." Rob slid a photograph across the table. It showed Lisa entering Romano's apartment 2 days after he'd detailed his murder plans. "This was taken after he told you about killing other husbands. You went back to him anyway." Lisa stared at the photo, her last defense crumbling. "What do you want from me? I want you to disappear. Sign the papers, take the $5,000 I'm legally required to give you, and start over somewhere far from here." $5,000? "Rob, we have over $200,000 in savings." "Pat, it's evidence in a federal money laundering investigation now. Romano used you to gain access to our accounts, remember? Everything's frozen pending the outcome of his trial." Lisa's face went white. "That's not true. You're lying." Rob showed her the bank statements. Their accounts had been emptied 3 days before Romano's arrest. Money transferred to offshore accounts that the FBI had traced to Romano's operation. Lisa's own signatures were on the transfer authorizations. "When did I sign these?" Lisa whispered, staring at documents she didn't remember. "Romano forged them using samples of your signature from the love letters you wrote him. The FBI has the originals." Rob's voice was clinical. "Lisa, you're not just losing a marriage. You're an accomplice to money laundering and conspiracy to commit murder. The only reason you're not in federal custody is because you cooperated with the investigation. But I helped you. I wore the wire. You wore the wire to save yourself, not to help justice. There's a difference." Lisa signed the papers with shaking hands, each signature stripping away another piece of her former life. The house, the cars, the investments, Rob's military pension. Everything went to Rob or in a trust fund for Emma. But Rob had one final move that would ensure Lisa never forgot the price of betrayal. "There's one more thing," he said as Lisa prepared to leave. "The families of Romano's victims want to interview you. They have questions about how he operated, how he selected targets, how he gained access to their finances. I don't have to talk to them." "No, you don't. But they know where you work, where you shop, where your sister lives. They know Romano destroyed their families, and they know you helped him do it." Rob's smile was arctic. "Some of them have sons who blame Romano for their father's deaths. Young men with nothing left to lose tend to be unpredictable." Lisa's knees nearly gave out. "You're telling them where to find me. I'm giving them information they're entitled to have. What they do with it is their choice." As Lisa walked out of their house for the last time, carrying only a single suitcase and $5,000 in cash, Rob felt no satisfaction. Justice wasn't about feeling good. It was about consequences. Lisa had chosen to betray her family and endanger their daughter. Now she would live with the consequences for the rest of her life. That evening, Rob called his mother in Montana. "Mom, how's Emma doing?" "She's fine, sweetheart. Misses you, though. How much longer before she can come home?" Rob looked around the empty house, thinking about the new life he'd build without the poison of betrayal corrupting it. "Soon, Mom. Just a few more loose ends to tie up." The war was almost over. Soon, Emma would come home to a father who'd proven that some people could be trusted to protect what mattered most. Chapter 7. The Reckoning Begins. 6 months later, Vincent Romano sat in federal prison awaiting trial, his empire in ruins and his co-conspirators either dead or behind bars. The associates he'd called to arrange Rob's murder had been members of a crime family that didn't appreciate having FBI attention drawn to their operations. Romano's attempt to cooperate with federal investigators in exchange for protection had earned him a knife between the ribs in the prison shower. He survived, but barely, and now spent 23 hours a day in solitary confinement. Rob received updates on Romano's condition through his law enforcement contacts, each report confirming that justice was being served in ways the courts couldn't deliver. But Rob's personal war wasn't finished. Lisa had fled to Phoenix, where her sister lived, but the families of Romano's victims had followed. They filed civil suits against her as an accomplice, demanding access to any assets she might have hidden. Private investigators tracked her movements, lawyers harassed her with depositions, and anonymous phone calls reminded her daily that her role in their suffering wouldn't be forgotten. Rob could have called them off with a single phone call, but he didn't. Lisa had made her choice. Now she lived with the consequences. Emma returned from Montana in the fall, tan and happy from her extended vacation. She'd grown 2 inches and developed a love for horses that Rob encouraged by enrolling her in riding lessons. They'd moved to a new house across town, smaller than their previous home, but filled with light and free from the shadows of betrayal. "Dad, why did Mom go away?" Emma asked one evening as Rob helped her with homework. Rob had prepared for this question for months. "Your mother made some bad choices, sweetheart. Sometimes when adults make really bad choices, they have to face consequences that change everything." "Will she ever come back?" "No, she won't." Emma was quiet for a moment, then looked up with eyes that were startlingly mature for her 9 years. "Are you sad about that?" Rob considered the question carefully. "I'm sad that she chose to hurt our family, but I'm not sad that it's just you and me now." "Are you?" Emma shook her head. "I like it better with just us. It feels safer." The word safer hit Rob like a physical blow. His 9-year-old daughter felt safer without her mother, a damning indictment of the chaos Lisa had brought into their lives. That winter, Rob received a call from Agent Mitchell. "Morrison, thought you'd want to know. Romano's trial date has been set for March. He's been trying to make deals, but prosecutors aren't interested. With your wife's testimony and the evidence you provided, it's an airtight case." "What about Lisa?" "Immunity deals still in place. She testifies she walks free from federal charges. And the civil suits?" Mitchell was quiet for a moment. "Those families, they're not letting go. Your ex-wife is looking at years of litigation, even if she doesn't have assets to seize." Rob felt no satisfaction in Lisa's ongoing torment, but he felt no sympathy either. She'd chosen to stand with a killer against her own family. Some choices couldn't be undone. Spring brought Romano's trial, and with it, a parade of prosecutors, defense attorneys, and media attention that Rob avoided entirely. He'd given his testimony during the investigation phase. The trial itself was just formality. Romano would die in prison, either from the justice system or from his former associates. The outcome was inevitable. But Rob's most important victory came on a quiet Tuesday afternoon when Emma brought home her report card. Straight A's, teacher comments praising her resilience and maturity, and a note requesting a parent conference to discuss her accelerated academic placement. "Mr. Morrison, Emma's teacher, Mrs. Patterson, said during their meeting, Emma is exceptional, not just academically, but emotionally. She's shown remarkable stability given the changes in her family situation." Rob nodded, pride swelling in his chest. "She's stronger than she knows. Children are resilient, but Emma's strength seems different, more purposeful. Has she expressed any feelings about her mother's absence?" "She's mentioned feeling safer now, more secure." Mrs. Patterson made a note. That's not uncommon in situations where there was family instability. Children often thrive when chaos is removed from their environment. As Rob drove home from the conference, he reflected on how completely his life had changed. A year ago, he'd been a husband and father living a lie, unaware that his wife was planning his destruction. Now he was a single father raising a daughter who felt safer without her mother's presence. The irony wasn't lost on him. In trying to destroy his family, Lisa had actually saved it. That evening, as Emma practiced piano in the living room, Rob sat at his kitchen table paying bills and planning their summer vacation. The house was peaceful, filled with the sound of music and the contentment that came from knowing his daughter was safe and loved. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Lisa. I know you won't respond, but I needed to say this. You were right about Vincent. About everything. I'm sorry." Rob stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Apologies were meaningless when they came after consequences had been delivered. Lisa was sorry she'd been caught, sorry she'd lost everything, sorry her choices had destroyed her life. But she wasn't sorry she'd betrayed him. She was sorry it hadn't worked. He turned off his phone and listened to Emma's piano practice, the melody filling their home with beauty and peace. Tomorrow he would teach her how to change the oil in his truck because practical skills mattered. This weekend they would go camping because adventure bonded families together. Next month they would visit his mother in Montana because Emma needed to understand her heritage. Rob Morrison had learned that some betrayals were so deep they couldn't be forgiven, only punished. But he'd also learned that some bonds were so strong they couldn't be broken, only strengthened by adversity. The war was over. Rob had won. Chapter 8, Blood and Judgment. The call came on a rainy Thursday morning in late spring. Agent Mitchell's voice was tense with barely controlled excitement. "Morrison, Romano's dead." Rob set down his coffee cup carefully. "How? Officially? Heart attack during a prison fight. Unofficially? Someone got to him despite protective custody." Word is his former associates weren't satisfied with just making him suffer. Rob felt no surprise, only the cold satisfaction of inevitability. What about the trial? Case closed. With Romano dead and his organization dismantled, prosecutors are focusing on the surviving co-conspirators. Your ex-wife's testimony is still valuable for those cases. After ending the call, Rob stood at his kitchen window watching Emma play in their backyard with their new dog, a German shepherd named Scout. She was building an obstacle course for the puppy, her face bright with concentration and joy. This was what mattered. Not Romano's death, not the federal cases, not Lisa's ongoing legal troubles. Emma's happiness was the only victory that counted. But Rob's war wasn't quite finished. That afternoon, he received a visit from someone unexpected. The man at his door was tall, gaunt, with eyes that held the hollow look of grief worn too long. Rob recognized him from newspaper photos, David Chun, whose wife Romano had seduced and whose subsequent accidental death had left Chun raising 2 young sons alone. "Mr. Morrison, I'm David Chun. I wanted to thank you." Rob invited Chun inside, studying the man who represented one of Romano's victims. "Thank me for what?" "For exposing him. For getting justice. My wife, Catherine, she was so ashamed of what she'd done with Romano that she couldn't face me when I found out. The night before her accident, she told me she was going to end the affair and confess everything." Chen's voice broke slightly. "Romano killed her because she was going to leave him." Rob poured coffee for both of them, recognizing in Chun the same cold determination that had driven his own campaign against Romano. "What happened to your sons? They're 8 and 10 now. They think their mother died in a car crash. They don't know about the affair, about Romano, about any of it." Chun met Rob's eyes. "I wanted them to remember her as the good woman she was before he corrupted her." "That's generous of you." Chen's laugh was bitter. "Is it? Or is it weakness? You didn't let your wife off so easily." Rob considered his words carefully. "Lisa didn't just have an affair, Mr. Chun. She actively participated in planning my murder and endangering my daughter. Your wife was trying to end things when Romano killed her. There's a difference. Maybe, or maybe I'm just not as strong as you are." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, 2 men who'd survived Romano's predation in different ways. Finally, Chin spoke again. "I heard your wife is still facing civil suits from the other families. That's their choice, not mine. But you could stop it if you wanted to." Rob set down his coffee cup. "Mr. Chun, why are you really here?" Chun reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick envelope. "Because the families have been talking, and we've reached a decision about your ex-wife." Rob didn't touch the envelope. "What kind of decision?" "She's been bouncing between Phoenix, Denver, and Seattle for the past 8 months. Never staying long enough to establish residency. never holding a job more than a few weeks. She's broke, homeless, and running from process servers and private investigators. Chen pushed the envelope across the table. We're prepared to call off the civil suits and the harassment if she agrees to certain conditions. What conditions? She disappears completely, changes her name, moves somewhere none of us will ever find her, and never contacts any of us or our children again, including your daughter. Rob opened the envelope and found documents that would effectively erase Lisa from existence. New identity papers, a one-way bus ticket to a small town in Oregon, and a cashier's check for $10,000. This is illegal. So is conspiracy to commit murder. So is money laundering. So is helping a serial killer destroy families. Chen's voice was steady. We're offering her a way out that lets her live. The alternative is spending the rest of her life looking over her shoulder. Rob studied the documents, understanding the weight of what the families were offering. You want me to deliver this to her? We want you to make sure she understands that this is her only chance. She takes the deal and vanishes forever, or the harassment continues until one of us decides legal pressure isn't enough. The threat was clear but unspoken. Some of Romano's victims had family members who weren't bound by legal constraints, who might decide that Lisa's complicity deserved more permanent consequences. Rob closed the envelope. I'll think about it. Chun stood to leave, then turned back. Mr. Morrison, your daughter's lucky to have a father who would go to war for her. Not all of us were strong enough to protect our families from people like Romano. After Chen left, Rob sat alone in his kitchen, weighing the moral complexity of what the families were proposing. They were offering Lisa a chance at a new life in exchange for complete disappearance from their lives and Emma's. It was merciful compared to what they could do, but it was also a form of exile that would leave Lisa permanently rootless and alone. Rob thought about Emma, who is now 10 years old and thriving in ways that had been impossible when Lisa's chaos dominated their home. Emma rarely mentioned her mother anymore, and when she did, it was without sadness or longing. She'd adapted to their new life with the resilience of childhood, building a world where she felt safe and loved. Lisa's reappearance, even years from now, would only destabilize the peace Emma had found. The family's offer would ensure that never happened. That evening, after Emma was asleep, Rob made his decision. He called the number Chan had given him and arranged to meet Lisa one final time. The meeting would be neutral ground, a roadside diner outside Phoenix where Lisa had been staying in a weekly rate motel. It would be the last conversation between them, the final chapter in a war that had consumed their marriage and left only ruins behind. Some mercy was possible, even after betrayal, but forgiveness remained forever beyond reach. Chapter 9. The Final Verdict. The diner was nearly empty at midnight, just a few truckers nursing coffee and a waitress who looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. Rob sat in a corner booth, the envelope from Chen's group on the table beside him, waiting for the woman who'd once been his wife. Lisa appeared in the doorway like a ghost of her former self. 10 months of running from consequences had carved hollows under her eyes and turned her hair prematurely gray. She moved with the cautious uncertainty of someone who'd learned that safety was always temporary. She slid into the booth across from him, her hands trembling as she reached for the coffee he'd ordered for her. "You look terrible," Rob said without preamity. "I feel terrible." Lisa's voice was hoarse, aged beyond her years. "Rob, thank you for agreeing to see me. I wasn't sure you would. I'm not here for you, Lisa. I'm here for Emma." Lisa flinched at their daughter's name. "How is she?" "She's happy, healthy, safe. Everything she wasn't when you were in her life." Does she ask about me?" Rob considered lying, then decided Lisa deserved the brutal truth. "Not anymore. She used to for the first few months. Now she's built a life that doesn't include you, and she's better for it." Lisa's composure cracked, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I made mistakes, Rob. Terrible mistakes. But I never stopped loving her. Love isn't enough when it comes with danger." Rob pushed the envelope across the table. "The families of Romano's victims have made you an offer." Lisa opened the envelope with shaking hands, her face going pale as she read the documents. A new identity? Complete disappearance. New name, new location, enough money to start over somewhere far from here. In exchange, you never contact Emma, never contact any of Romano's victims, and never try to rebuild any connection to your old life. And if I refuse? Rob's expression was arctic. Then the civil suits continue. The harassment continues. And eventually, someone decides legal pressure isn't enough. Lisa stared at the cashier's check, $10,000 representing the sum total of her future. This is what my life is worth now. Your life is worth what you made it worth when you chose Romano over your family. I never chose him over Emma. You chose him over Emma's safety. You chose him over Emma's father. You chose him over Emma's future. Rob leaned forward, his voice dropping to a whisper. Lisa, Romano had photos of her daughter. He was planning to groom her. And you knew he was dangerous, but you kept going back to him anyway. Lisa's sobs were quiet, broken things that barely disturbed the diner's artificial peace. I was scared. I didn't know how to get out. You were selfish. You wanted the excitement more than you wanted to protect your child. Rob stood up, looking down at the woman who'd destroyed their family for a few months of attention from a killer. Take the deal, Lisa. Disappear completely, start over, and maybe somewhere down the line you'll find a way to live with what you've done. What if I don't take it? Then you'll spend the rest of your life learning that some consequences never end. As Rob walked toward the door, Lisa called after him. Rob, will you tell Emma I'm sorry? He turned back, his face carved from granite. No, Emma doesn't need your apologies. She needs to forget you existed. Rob drove through the night back to his home, back to his daughter, back to the life he'd built from the ashes of betrayal. The desert highway stretched endlessly ahead, dark and empty except for his headlights cutting through the darkness. By morning, Lisa Morrison would no longer exist. The woman who'd taken those identity papers would disappear into the vast anonymity of America. Another lost soul, starting over with nothing but regret and a small chance at redemption. Emma woke up Saturday morning full of plans for their day, hiking with Scout, lunch at their favorite restaurant, a movie that evening. She was 11 now, tall for her age, with Rob's eyes and a strength that hadn't been there when Lisa was part of their lives. Dad, can we call Grandma Morrison this afternoon? I want to tell her about my science project. Of course, sweetheart. Emma hugged him with the fierce affection of a child who'd never learned to doubt her father's protection. I love our life, Dad. Just you and me and Scout. Rob held his daughter close, remembering the fear in her voice that day she'd said the car felt strange, remembering the terror of realizing she'd been targeted by a predator. Lisa's betrayal had nearly destroyed them, but had also taught them what mattered most. I love our life too, Em. That afternoon, while Emma played in the backyard with Scout, Rob received a text from Agent Mitchell. Lisa Morrison took a bus to Portland this morning. Case officially closed. Rob deleted the message and watched his daughter teach their dog new tricks, her laughter carrying across the yard like music. Lisa had made her choice and would live with the consequences forever. Romano was dead, his organization destroyed, his victims finally able to move forward. The war was over. Rob Morrison had protected what mattered most and destroyed everything that threatened it. Some men forgave betrayal. Others made betrayal so costly that no one dared attempt it again. Emma ran to him, grass stains on her jeans and joy lighting up her face. Dad, watch this. Scout learned how to jump through the hoop. Rob watched his daughter demonstrate her training success, his heart full of pride and peace. This was victory. Not the destruction of his enemies, but the preservation of innocence, the protection of love, the creation of a safe space where his daughter could grow up without fear. Lisa had gambled with their family's future and lost everything. Romano had threatened their safety and paid with his life. The other conspirators had faced federal justice and the vengeance of their victims' families. But Emma Morrison had won the only prize that mattered. A father who would never let anyone hurt her, and a life built on the unshakable foundation of unconditional protection. The score was settled. The account was balanced. Justice, brutal and complete, had been served. Some men forgave. Rob Morrison ensured that forgiveness was never necessary. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen, and I'll see you there.